Hey everyone, in this lecture we are going to discuss regarding a couple of topics, specifically three topics, which is packet buffer protection, zone protection features in your Palo Alto firewall, and along with that we'll talk about how do you group the different security profiles together, and how do you apply that a group based security profile in your security policies. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about those multiple topics. These are all short topics, but we can discuss it in one lecture itself. All right, so the first thing that I want to discuss is the feature which is called as packet buffer protection and PA firewalls. Now, this particular feature, it is there enabled by default. So it is also sometimes called as a PBP, that is packet buffer protection, and basically it's a feature which is designed to prevent any sort of denial of service or DOS attacks. Okay, DOS attacks, and perform any sort of resource exhaustion which could be caused via any excessive traffic spikes, and it will help to ensure the firewall stability by monitoring and managing any packet buffer utilization on the interfaces of the firewall. Right, so how it works, so it is there enabled by default, right? So this feature, I can say it is enabled by default, right? So you can go to a PA firewall, let's say, and you can go to, let us say, click on network, then select zones. So we have configured a couple of zones here. Let's say I click on this trust zone, and I can see by default this enable packet buffer protection feature, it is enabled by default. But notice one thing, that the next feature which I'll discuss, called as a zone protection profile, it is disabled by default, but you can create one. Okay, so you click on any other zone, for example the untrust zone, the packet buffer protection is enabled by default. All right, so as discussed, so it is enabled by default. It is going to prevent any resource exhaustion that is caused by any excessive traffic spikes, and it is there running on the interfaces of your Palo Alto firewall, right? So how it works regarding the working process of this packet buffer protection feature. Step number one is, since it is there enabled by default, so this feature will keep on monitoring the buffer utilization or buffer usage on the interfaces. So this firewall, the Palo Alto firewall, continuously monitors the packet buffer usage and in the NPU, which is called as the network processing unit. Network processing unit, also called as the NPU. Right, there is a feature called as threshold based protection, which you get. So threshold based protection, which means that you can you have this feature called as alert threshold. You can configure that whenever you need it, and you have another feature called as activate threshold. All right, so alert threshold is, as the name suggests, so when the buffer, the buffer utilization, it will reach the alert threshold level, so the firewall will log a warning. Okay, so firewall will log a warning once this protection buffer usage will reach this particular alert threshold level. And activate threshold, as the name says, that when the buffer utilization reaches this level, the firewall will start dropping the packets from offending sources, right? So drops the packets from offending sources. All right, you have the third feature, or third working feature, which is called as the offending identification. So the firewall identifies, the top source IPs which is responsible for this high buffer usage, and these IPs are categorized as offenders. Okay, so I can say it identifies the top source IPs, okay, IPs, and categorized source IPs as offenders, and causing higher buffer usage. Okay, and the fourth thing that you get is called as the traffic rate control. Traffic rate control. So what do you mean by that is, the offending IPs have their traffic dropped or limited until the buffer utilization on the interfaces it returns to the normal level. Okay, so I can write down this: offending IPs have their traffic dropped or limited until buffer utilization returns to normal. Okay, now regarding the configuration, so you can go to the device option, the device tab, and then click on the setup tab, and then there is an option called as the session settings. So click on the session settings over here, and you can locate this feature called as packet buffer protection features. So you can configure this. So you can see that the packet buffer protection under the session settings, this feature, it is enabled. So let me highlight that for you. So this one, right, this packet buffer protection feature, it is enabled by default. But if you want to change this particular values, like the alert threshold, the block count threshold, the latency activate threshold, and etc., so all these timers, if you want to change that to a different level, you can change this according to your requirement over here. Okay, the activate threshold, the alert threshold, by default it is configured as 50% for alert and 80% for activate. Okay, I'm not showing you something like that, but yeah, something with configuration, but hope you understand this, right? Yep. So these are also the hold time duration. All right, so you can set the hold time duration before an offender is removed from the block list. All right, and once you change these values, once you change this particular values, so you can go ahead and commit the changes to take effect. Right, so best practice would be, let me define some best practices over here. So let's say an attacker is trying to send a lot of traffic to this inside resources, and it is trying to exhaust the buffer spaces on these interfaces, because it is trying to send many traffic. So because of which, once this packet buffer protection or PBP feature, if it is enabled on the interface, so it has got this alert value and the threshold value which is set. Once those values gets triggered, then the offenders could be protected. The offender IPs could be logged, and their traffic could be protected from not exhausting our critical resources. Right, so let's talk about the best practices for. So best practices, what do you get in case of packet buffer protection? The first thing that I want to tell you is, let's set a reasonable alert threshold to detect early signs of buffer exhaustion. Okay, we can use this called as max offenders to avoid excessive blocking. We have to regularly monitor your system logs to fine-tune the settings, and also you can enable DOS protection profile, which we have discussed earlier, alongside PBP, packet buffer protection, for enhanced security. So these two works better together for enhanced security. All right, so yeah, so these are the different best practices what you can follow while working with packet buffer protection, right? So on the CLI as well, you can type a command to see so if there is any sort of logs which is getting generated in the Palo Alto firewall due to the packet buffer protection. If those levels gets activated, the alert level, the threshold level gets activated, you can actually go ahead and type this particular commands in the CLI. So it is very simple. Let me just show it to you what command you should normally type to see the logs or events, the alert threshold values of packet buffer protection. Command is show session packet buffer protection. Okay, so it will give you what is the congestion count currently, and system resource usage is currently low, and packet buffer protection is not activated. So it is enabled. I know this feature is enabled, but you understand that the threshold level of the activate level has not yet reached, right? So to show you the logs. All right, this is one thing. And on your PA firewall, you can go to the monitor tab under the logs. On the traffic tab, you can see the logs for packet buffer protection over here. Okay, once if any attacker is trying to send the traffic and if the PBP thresholds are reached. All right, so the next topic that I want to discuss is regarding the zone protection profile in Palo Alto. Zone protection profile in PA firewall. Now, as I've told you, the zone protection profile, it is not enabled by default, unlike a PBP. So zone protection profile, it is going to help to provide any sort of denial of service and any sort of reconnaissance attack protection, but it will be there at the zone level, and it is used to safeguard your network resources. And this zone protection profile will help prevent any sort of malicious or excessive traffic before it consumes the overall firewall resources. Okay, so there are multiple mechanisms, so you can see that so when you go to your Palo Alto firewall, when you click on your network, right, so you have got the zones, right? So if you click on any of the zones over here, you can see the zone protection profile is set to none for the respective zones that you configure by default. So it is not activated by default. So you can click on this new button to configure a new zone protection profile from here, or what you can do is you can select network, and under the parameters of this network, you can find there is a zone protection under network profiles right here. So expand the network profiles and you find zone protection over here. By default, there is no zone protection profile which is created, so you can click on add and click on let us say my zone protection profile 1. Okay, give a name and description of your choice, and then you can actually see the different categories that you have to configure under zone protection profile. So you've got categories of flood protection, reconnaissance protections, packet buffer or packet based attack protection, protocol based protection, Ethernet SGT protection, L3 L4 header inspection, etc. So multiple categories are defined here. Under flood protection, you can enable for TCP SYN flood, UDP based floods, ICMP floods, ICMP v6 or any other IP. Under reconnaissance protection, you have the options for TCP port scan, host sweep, UDP port scan, any sort of scans, and you can set the action for those scans to different, action levels like alert, block IP, whatever. Under packet buffer or packet based attack protection, you can stop any spoofed IP, or there are subcategories as well for IP based, TCP based, ICMP based, etc. Protocol protection, you can define based on exclude or include list, define the protocol name, right? It can be based on ether type as well, right? So yeah, so multiple categories are defined here, right? Now right, so as I was telling you, so first is you can add let us say SYN, and you can define the action, let us say random early drop, and you can define this ICMP v6 etc. for reconnaissance protect, ensure that in a TCP port scan or UDP port scan are enabled, spoofed IPs, fragmented traffic, strict source routing, or might be any sort of malformed packets, right? So let's say I have enabled those features and click on OK. So that's my zone protection profile, which is configured now, and now I can go to the respective zones, and I can let us say in the trust zone, I can go there and I can enable that. So here we go, I can see that my zone protection profile is there. I can click on OK and I can enable that, right? So this is how do you configure a zone protection profile, right? So let's commit it, and just to make sure some key points. So if those configuration are successful, then you can see that in the traffic threat logs as well. Okay, if any threshold is getting triggered because of the zone protection profile which has been configured, right? So as I've told you, so what are the key mechanisms or key protection mechanisms that you have in zone protection? You have got flood protection. So flood protection is based on it will prevent any sort of high rate attacks like TCP SYN floods or UDP based floods or ICMP floods, right? You have got protection against reconnaissance protections. So basically it will detect and block any network scanning and any host discovery attempts, right? Number 3 would be your packet based attack protection, which means it will defend against any malformed packets or IP spoofing and any other low level attacks. And you have got category of other protection mechanism as well. Other protection mechanism, so basically it includes any TCP reassembly settings and any resource protection setting, right? So yeah, you can also configure the zone protection profile through CLI as well. So one of the example I can give is, let us say, you have to go to the CLI, then you can type this configure, so to go to the configuration mode, and then you can type one command like that. So set network profiles, then you can say zone protection profile, and then give the profile name, say it as ZP protect 1, okay, as the profile name, and let's say the category, so it is a flood category, and you are enabling the TCP SYN flood, and enable yes. Okay, so similarly, yeah, and if you want to enable for random early detection, and so same command, you can just say TCP SYN, and you can just say RED yes. All right, so similarly you can have the commands for UDP as well. Okay, so you can give a question marks after this TCP SYN, or after flood you can give a question mark and see the different options that is available to you, right? So what are the best practices that you have? So ensure that when you configure zone protection profile, make sure you enable, let me give you the points here. So best practices for zone protection profiles. So first thing is enable zone protection on internet facing zones, basically the untrust zones, okay, to protect against any external threats. You can use the SYN cookies over random early detection for SYN floods, for any sort of SYN flood protection when under any sort of attack. Okay, we have to monitor the logs regularly to fine-tune threshold settings. Okay, and we can use this zone protection in combination with DOS protection profiles for granular per IP attack control. So these are the different best practices what you have for zone protection profile. All right, I hope it is clear. And the third but on the list, third topic that I want to discuss over here is regarding the grouping of your security profiles in your Palo Alto, right? So how do you group those multiple security profiles together in Palo Alto Firewall, and how do you apply that as a single group in your configuration, right? So let's go ahead and discuss that. So when you see if you look for the policies, right? So under security policies that you have configured, internet access, and if you look for the action tab, you have the profile types, and you have selected as profile, and you have enabled all those profiles so far during our discussions, right? Every profile has been configured. So now if you look for profiles, you have this group, right? That means if you select groups, you can directly define a group over here, rather calling an individual stuff. That means when does this group is beneficial, right? When does this group is beneficial? So let's say you have got thousands of security policies which you have configured. So you have got 1,000 lines here, 1,000 sequences of policies you have. That means for individual policies, if you have to go and enable this security profiles, it is very difficult. So to individual policies, you'll be going, click on the action, select profiles, and you need to activate antivirus profile, vulnerability profile, anti-spyware, etc., right? But all of this might be some security policy rule, might be they does not need the respective or all the profiles, right? So you can actually customize that. You can have, let us say, imagine you can have, 3 groups, right? You can create, let us say, 3 groups, and you can control this configuration in group order. That means you can define, let's say, you can define, let us say, security profile, let's say group 1, say gr1. In that you have activated, let us say, antivirus profile, let us say, malware protection profile, right? Or let's say antivirus profile. You want to enable zone protection profile here, you want to enable DOS protection profile here, right? And you want to enable, packet buffer protection, PBP, over here. Okay. But in case of other group, let us say you want to enable all the profile, right? So in security profile group number 2, you want to enable, all the security profile. So what you want is, let us say you have got some 10 security rules, 10 security rules or 10 security policies which you have configured. That means you have got 10 lines like that. Okay. So to to the first, let us say to the first five lines, right, you will go and enable this security profile group 1, and to the next 5 lines you will go and enable the security profile group 2, right? So like this, what can happen is, the respective profiles which was enabled under that group will be enabled for those respective security policies. Okay. So this is what the concept of, security profile grouping means, right? So let's say, how do I do that? It's very simple. I can click on this network tab, right? Or you can click on this object tab, and you can have the security profile groups right on the left side. So click on security profile group, you can add a security profile group here. You can say security profile, let us say group 1, and based on a requirement, let's say you can either select your AB profile which you have configured, or might be the default one. Let's say I select my AB profile. Let's say I select antivirus profile here. Let us say I'm selecting my URL filtering profile. Let us say I'm selecting data filtering profile and file blocking profile. Okay, say I'm selecting my file blocking profile. So that's part of your security profile group 1. Likewise, I can create another one which is, say, security profile group 2, okay, gr2, whatever, and let's say I want to enable everything, right? I want to enable everything, all the profiles I want to select. Wildfire was default, yeah, and I want to apply that to my different categories of security rule. Now what you can do is you can go to the policies and you can click on internet access policy what you have, and you can click on, let us say, the actions, and under profile type you can just select that, select group. Rather selecting individual profiles over here, you can select the respective group that you want. So I have selected security profile group 2, which allows every profile, and I can just say, so you can see that the profile is shown as a group over here, okay, rather as an individual profile, and you can go ahead and commit it, right? So now when all the policies were activated, so definitely whatever configurations you have done under those respective or individual security profiles will also be activated, right? So let's write down some key points here regarding your security profile group. Okay, so it's simple thing. So it's instead of applying individual, so instead of applying individual security profiles, security profile groups simplify management by grouping multiple profiles all together, right? So I've shown you that, okay, how to go there and configure as well. Now if you want to do it via CLI, if you want to do it via CLI, you can actually CLI method, you can click, type configure, and then you can, let us say, give a command like this: set profile group, say this is the command will be like that: default security group, okay, and let's say it is for antivirus profile, and then you can define the profile name, okay. Here it will be the profile name, okay, profile name, okay. Likewise, you can enable for instead of virus, let us see, if you want to enable for anti-spyware, it will be for spyware followed by the profile name. If you want to enable for, let us see, URL filtering, so similarly instead of virus it will be URL filtering, and then followed by the profile name. Yeah, so this is the way you normally do that. And what are the benefits that you get when you use the security profile group? First benefit will be to simplify the policy management. Okay, first benefit is simplify the policy management, MGMT. Okay, ensure we have got consistent security enforcement. Okay, it will definitely save time to manually go ahead and apply individual profiles to every security rule. Yeah, that is the important thing. And third, last thing is basically the easier updates. That means you can modify a single profile group instead of updating multiple policies, right? So what are the different best practices that you can follow when you work with the security profile group? The first is ensure that we can use separate profile groups for different types of traffic, right? So for example, for internal users, for guest users, for server based traffic, we can have a separate security profile groups created, and call the respective security profiles inside those groups. Then I can say regularly update security profile to ensure protections against new threats. Okay, third thing will be monitor definitely your security logs to fine-tune the profile settings for better threat prevention. All right, so I hope it is clear. And any traffic which is is found a match against your security profile groups, those traffic logs will be there under monitor, and definitely under traffic logs, threat logs, and based on those respective URL filtering, wildfire submission, system based logs, user ID based logs, all will be generated over here. Okay, so I hope it is clear. I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you for watching. Kindly practice. If there is any queries, we are here to support you. Thank you.